Hello, welcome back to the Foundations of FinTech class. This will be a small demonstration into smart contracts. I will discuss a web application, which is called Remix, R-E-M-I-X, and that will allow me to show you an internal way of transferring money, in this case, Ethereum, or also known as Wei, which is actually sort of a internal kind of blockchain currency that is being used to go from one account to the next. And then I will also attach that information to the Ethereum network through a sort of a wallet that has been set up in MetaMask. And to show you that these particular blockchain transactions could be documented as such, so that you can see that that contract will transfer a specific amount of coins from one account to the next. So, and of course, that comes with associated with a specific amount of fees, which is also known as gas. That will be my demonstration. I need you to be aware that there are some steps that need to be made in order to get this all functional, which could be a little bit technical. There's definitely some, of course, tutorials online about the Remix site, about, of course, the MetaMask, the specific gas mining to get, of course, the specific coins into your wallet. And I'm just hoping that in your near future, the blockchain applications that will go through, of course, the rest of your curriculum will be able to explain that better. This will be a very simple contract that is just money transfer. There were also, of course, multiple applications that you could see that are associated with loan applications, real estate mortgages that are a little bit more involved, which I will not necessarily go into. I just wanted to show you what the smart contract looks like and how it's basically be documented on the blockchain, and for you to get an understanding that, of course, is immutable, that you cannot change it, hence the name immutable, that it is safe, that it typically will go through the particular transactions in a specific amount of time, and that you can verify that, of course, your blockchain transaction has been vetted, also known, of course, as the, the power of stake, kind of algorithm, in order to allow yourself to know that, of course, the transaction has been, looked over and added to the blockchain itself. So let me show you what the Remix site looks like, and, basically where I got the information from, and kind of the underlying ideas behind the contract itself in not so many terms. So let me just show you what Remix looks like. So here is the Remix site. You should be able to see that. It is actually a way of online without, of course, any particular information that is sensitive to be going outside this website itself. So it's just a demonstration test site. In order for you to attach it to your personal wallet, you would have to have certain, decentralized applications and the wallet itself. These are all embedded into Remix, so you don't necessarily have to make up your own. The powerful language that we're using in order to make the contracts is Solidity. That in itself has some understanding needed. Of course, the language that is used within that is predominantly JavaScript, which is kind of the same as C++. It's very intuitive if you know how to do it. It will take some time to get used to. But again, the transaction itself is relatively straightforward. So again, if you can see on the left-hand side, there is a sort of a tab for contracts. Every time when you click on a new file, then you can make your contract, and these 3 contracts were already embedded, which basically gives you some indication that there's already a particular pre-formatted way of doing these contracts. But I basically made my own contract here by borrowing it from others. This particular one comes from a coding teacher, so you can look that up on YouTube if you're interested. And then the only things, of course, that you'll have to kind of change is that the Solidity network, and of course, the program itself has constant updates, and you would have to set the updated version in order to make this actually work. Another thing in this case, it requires a license. The license here, there are several. I'm using the AFL network. There's also MIT. There's quite a few. They all work, but again, it all depends on what particular network that you're using. So let me just basically run through this particular program. In this case, the contract is called Etherlock. That's the name that you can specify. You have an address by which you are defining the owner. You also have, in this case, of course, the start time and the way that this is set up. And that's not necessarily, of course, something that is really needed, but you cannot withdraw any funds, in this case, to kind of show that you have to initiate savings after 1 year. Now, everything in this particular Solidity format is basically allocated into seconds. So in 1 year, that means that you have this particular amount of seconds. So that would be like, the number of days, the number of seconds, the number of hours, and then basically that's the number that you'll have. Then what actually happens here, in order to make this work, eventually through the public site, in order to attach it to your wallet, which we have set up in a particular Chrome extension, which of course would be a browser. It's called MetaMask. Which is an application that allows you to have a wallet, and I will show you that in a second. That will basically then be the internal kind of movement from one particular transaction to the next. So in layman's term, this is just a contract by which you can actually just transfer a specific amount of Ether, which in this case would be the coin that we're using to transfer one account to the next account. And it specifies, in this case, of course, with a particular constructor, that the message has to be coming from the sender, that you have a specific timestamp, that the receiver would be considered to be the payable, and that's kind of course, a one-sided transaction. So that to demonstrate that, you would have to, of course, first compile this particular transaction, and then you can actually work with it, which will be the next. What you'll notice is, of course, that Remix uses a particular, their own coin base, which is based on the Ether, and it's basically using WEI, which is WEI. After you compile, you can see what's going on. So again, let me just first compile it. So that's the button right here. And then you can see that you have the right contract. The name of the contract is Contract Sol. And then you compile it. And then if everything works out well, then you can see here that there's a green check mark. And then, of course, you have all the details. And basically, it will tell you again that the contract is compiled and that you can now work with it. So if you go to the next site, now you'll see that basically there are some specifications. In this case, it says that the version that you'll have to use is Shanghai, and you have a certain ones. Now, the thing is that I already set up, in this case, a injected MetaMask provider that, it will go through some, in this case, some steps you'll have to take in order to make that work, which unfortunately is not within the purview of this particular video, but hopefully that will come to you later. And then what happens, of course, is also that you have that particular, in this case, the Shanghai Remix internal kind of applicator, by which now you have a specific, this account. And there are several accounts that are being formatted. And then, of course, this is the one that we're using. And then in this case, the gas limit is, of course, the number of ways, which will be 3 million here. And then you basically have to deploy it. So when you deploy it, then you'll see, click on deploy, that a contract, in this case, or a contract has been designated as such. And then you can see right here, if you click on that contract, that you now have a particular amount. So we're not going to use the withdraw because there is really no money. It says the balance is 0 Ether because we just deployed that particular contract. And if you get the balance on that one, it says that, of course, you have 0 units. Now, what we are going to try to do is within that contract, transfer money from one account to the next. So if I click on another account, so here I have another account, and let's say you pick the second one right here, which of course has a hash mark tag to it. And then I click on that. And let's say that I now want to transfer 25 Ethers from one account to the next, and I'll do it in Ether this time. Then I go to the bottom here and I'll click on transact. So I click on transact, and now you see that my balance has changed. So if I click now on get balance, which of course will be in designations of way, that would be then of course my 25 ethers that I just transferred. Well, which is very interesting, but that is not really that exciting, because again, now you're dealing with just directly, of course, within that particular website, in this case Remix, and I want to show you how that would work if you were on the Ethereum network itself. So we have to kind of make a call outside the program. So let's say that now I want to go to my MetaMask provider, and you can see, of course, that the account that you can see right here is associated with the account that I set up. So I have to show you, in this case, of course, the specific way of looking at where that particular amount is being held. And the only way I can show you that is right here. You see this little, I don't know really what kind of a mart it is, but it's an extension. So you click on it and you see here MetaMasks. So if I'm taking myself to the bottom right here, and I will show you, and I don't want you to get confused, but you can see right here that the account, which is kind of abbreviated, ending with E1D4, is this account right here. That's also the same. And the number of Goerli Ether, which in this case would be my test network, because I don't want to be on the real Ethereum network, because that would actually involve real money. So this test network has a 0.1192 ethers involved. That's basically my account balance at the moment. What you need to understand is that, of course, when I set up this account, I had 0 ether. So I had to go through a particular mining site, which is also, if you Google it, it says actually Goerli mining site, and then it will allow you to mine ethers, and you just have to wait. And typically within an hour, you might get up to 0.02 ethers, which is enough to do a transaction. I let it run for a little bit longer on a somewhat bigger machine, so it didn't necessarily take too long. But you understand, of course, that these comes with, typically, if you are mining within the the Bitcoin or Ethereum network, that will require you, of course, a specific fee, which we have discussed in previous, of course, modules, or in this case, of course, chapters. Now, let's say that now, as you can see, I want to transfer that amount to a specific way. So what I can do here is I can deploy that particular contract, and then you'll see that the gas that is needed in order to transfer that amount will be automatically adjusted. So let's see what happens here. So I click on deploy, and then unfortunately, my amount is now dissipating. So I have to try this again. And I have no contract. So here we go. And you can see that the network is busy, which is because of the gas prices, not that uncommon. But I would have to confirm that this will be the 0.0012299 Goerli Ether for the gas to transfer one particular account to the next. I would have to confirm it. And then if I confirm it, then that would be my transaction. And now the transaction, you might not necessarily see it very well here, but it's pending. So I'll have to wait. And eventually, when we're done with that, it should show on this Etherscan that the transaction came through. So we just have to wait diligently. And that could take a few seconds. So I'm hoping that it will work. And it's still pending. And that's probably because, again, it might take up to 15 to 30 seconds because, again, as the network already indicated, it is very busy currently. So let me see. I can probably, and here it is. So the block came through. And if I look at Etherscan right here, then I can see that the block has been created, that the number of way is very, so this is gigaway. So you can see it's very, very small. But, and of course, this is a Goerli testnet transaction only. But if I click on, in this case, of course, the block, you can see that I have a particular amount of transactions. There is a gas price. There is a recipient, which, of course, is the account that was designated within my Remix. And if I go back to my, in this case, MetaMask, you can probably see, again, that the overall contract deployment, which is a very small amount of way, which was done today, has cost me a little bit of gas, meaning that that was basically enough to basically make the transaction happen. I could also show you actually when I'm transferring a specific amount of Ether. So in the hope that that will actually, so I want to change now a particular amount because, 0 Ether, of course, didn't cost me much. Now let's see if this actually will work. And, it basically is an arrow because again, I don't have enough funds in my account. So I would have to cancel the transaction. I'm going to try it with, in this case, less. So let's just basically do it in Wei. So I should have enough Wei in my account. And if I deploy that, then automatically I will send a transaction, see if it works. And then again, I have a little bit of a higher gas price here. And if I confirm that, then hopefully it should give me an error, or should not give me an error, but it did, because again, I don't have enough money in my account to make this work. I'm going to try one more account to see if this will actually go into a lesser. So this is my Gwei, and see if this will work. So no, it will not work. I will try one more. Again, this is not exactly always error proof, but I will try one more time. I have insufficient funds. So again, in order for me to make these transactions work, I would have to really add more money to my Ether account, which is currently not available. But I just wanted to demonstrate to you that this is actually the way that these smart contracts will work, because they are verifiable, immutable. And of course, within this particular contract right here, which is written, you could also add within the constructor function much more parameters that then, of course, will allow you to kind of specify whether you are dealing with a loan, how much money you're willing to withdraw, what the loan is for, so that it's verifiable. And of course, especially when it comes to encryptions of signatures, that this is a very, very good way to actually identify the blockchain progression, because again, it will actually be very safe, and it doesn't require any centralization or any agent that will kind of look over what your transaction is. So again, this is my demonstration. I hope you got something out of it, and I will talk to you soon to talk about the next steps of the decentralized finance applications, which of course is the next 2 modules. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.